Thank you to Carl Gowan for supporting today's video via Patreon. Mythic patron to the channel, Carl Gowan, has given me this Ghired list to play with. It is Ghired Dragon Tribal up against Grumgully, Ishkanah and Kenrith, the Returned King. 2-lander with some cost reduction stuff there. I think we can try and keep that. Last in the turn order, so yeah, keeping a slower hand might hurt us, but Elvish Mystic from the Kenrith player. Chromatic Star from Grumgully. And then we get into Kodama's Reach, so hopefully we manage to find another land. We'll just get the Stomping Ground intact so we don't have to shock ourselves. And we see our beloved Field of the Dead from Kenrith, so yeah, that ought to be a fun one as the game progresses. Evolving Wilds cracked from the Ishkanah player. And now another Mana Dork in Paradise Druid from Grumgully. Okay, not managing to get into another land unfortunately, so we'll have to get into one next turn. Let's go for the Dragon Lord Servant. And some colour fixing when the next 3 lands have come down. The World Tree. Search from Tomorrow was suspended at some point by the Ishkanah player, so casting that this turn, getting another forest into play. And then playing out a cycle land in Tranquil Thicket. And a Nyxweaver comes down as well for a bit of self-mill. A Guardian Project for the Grumgully player. And we're praying for a land here. Ugh, no land in the first 3 turns of the game, so yeah, nothing we can do there, I don't think. Doubling Season now from Kenrith, and there is an Urborg here as well. The Spider milled a land as well as Moldavine Reclamation, fixing the black mana of the Ishkanah player as well with that Urborg. And they have cycled themselves a Jungle Weaver, which gets them into Tectonic Edge, so I would straight away go after Field of the Dead if I was them, because we really don't want Kenrith getting too far ahead, but instead just deciding to tap out on a Spore Cap, so yeah, don't think it was all that important to get the Spore Cap out. The Kenrith player could have removal for the Tectonic Edge. The 2-3 not going in at Kenrith either, so yeah, this is what I'm always worried about when there's a Kenrith player at the table that's getting far ahead. They're not always recognised as being a threat when I think they obviously are. Anyway, we see the first commander of the game, that is Grumgully the Generous, and then cracking the Chromatic Star for green mana. And that allows him into a Birds of Paradise, which comes down with a plus counter and draws a card with the Guardian Project as well. And we are still hoping on a land on our 4th turn. The 2-1 going in at Kenrith, as it should. I think I will swing in at Kenrith to try and encourage the Ishkanah player in towards there as well. We're still hoping for a land. Okay, well, we'll have to gamble for one then, I think. So we might as well grab the Temple Garden, it fixes our mana. And we ended up discarding the Old Gnawbone. I'd rather not have discarded that, but we are a ways away from it. And yeah, nothing else we can do, so at least we can go for the Kodama's Reach next turn, but we are being really slow here. Let's turn in towards the Kenrith player as well, show our opponents that we are looking in Kenrith's direction as well. If we feel as though players are going to swing in at us now that we're tapped out, we can always get down the Thunderbreak Regent next turn, assuming that we keep our creature in play. Wild Beastmaster now, whenever it attacks, each other creature you control gets +X/+X, where X is its power, and that lasts until the end of the turn. Nyxweaver triggering again, as it will during each of Ishkanah's upkeeps. And getting rid of a Parallel Lives, that's good. We see the back of Explosive Vegetation as well. Still leaving the Field of the Dead awake, so Ishkanah Grafwidow coming into play instead. I mean, yeah, maybe it'll pay off for them because they're not down on a land now thanks to keeping the Tech Edge in play. But the longer that you leave the Tech Edge in play and don't take out Field of the Dead, the longer they have to remove your land first. But like I said, might pay off for them here because they are getting creatures into play. Yep, and not recognising the Kenrith player as a threat at all. Swinging in at us, which, yeah, automatically punishes us for turning in sideways with this. I had a feeling that that might happen. Okay, got a Ghost Quarter as well. So, could get rid of the World Tree and the Field of the Dead there. Could really hurt the Kenrith player. Deciding not to do it, though. I mean, I don't think there's any excuse to not do it with the Ghost Quarter. Oh, that's good. A Quartzwood Crasher. And it does cantrip with the Guardian Project, so a 7/7 with Trample. Then following that up with a Nature's Law as well. Still 5 cards in Grumgully's hand. And then deciding to hold back, not wanting to swing into... Yeah, I think they could have safely taken Grumgully in towards Kenrith there. I don't think Kenrith is being very well respected here. Okay, Dragon Tempest. I do not trust the Spider player to not swing in at us. So I should probably go for the Thunderbreak Regent, but we're just too far behind on mana. So if it means taking damage that we wouldn't have otherwise taken for the sake of getting more mana into play, then so be it. We'll have to go for red and white here, I think, because we've got a bunch of red spells in hand. We'll put the mountain into play tapped, and then we can play the plains and pretend that we're holding up swords or path, and that might dissuade players from coming in towards us. Stepping closer and closer to fixing their mana with the World Tree. One more land and that will be switched on. And there is a Smothering Tithe, excellent. I wonder how long it's going to take our opponents to realise Kenrith's a threat. They will get twice as many treasure tokens thanks to the doubling season. Milling a Vastwood Surge and a Coat of Arms. Temple of the False God coming into play now. I don't think there's any excuse whatsoever to not use the Ghost Quarter or the Tech Edge on the World Tree now. It is the World Tree I take out at this point. That leaves the Kenrith player with 4 lands and nowhere near the Field of the Dead. And they're currently only 1 land away from having the World Tree switched on. Okay, sacrificing the Nyx Weaver. They returned a creature, or is it a card? Or return a card from graveyard to hand. They grabbed the Coat of Arms, so casting the Coat of Arms here. So all their creatures bumping up to a massive amount of power. Now they're just going to turn in sideways at us. And deciding not to swing in, strangely. I don't get what this player's doing. Yeah. Anyway, going over to Grumgully's turn. Rhythm of the Wild, that's a scary one, so either a plus counter or haste on a non-token creature. Their creature spells can't be countered either. There's Acidic Slime, so probably should go on the Coat of Arms as it stands now. That does draw them. They can blow up a land, enchantment or artifact with Acidic Slime. Okay, the Acidic Slime actually pointed at the doubling season. I would have pointed it at the Smothering Tithe over the doubling season, and certainly would have pointed it at Coat of Arms over the two of them. Yeah, Smothering Tithe is definitely the one I would have gone for there. Obviously we don't know what's in Kenrith's deck, so maybe it's Super Friends and they'd really benefit from doubling season. And yeah, Kenrith being recognised as a threat by the Grumgully player. Obviously a decent player here, so the Quartzwood Crasher lands some damage on there. They get a, yeah, there it is, a 9/9 Dinosaur, a beast token with trample. And to our turn we've got Dragonlord Dramoka. Not going to pay into Smothering Tithe. We've actually got 41 lands in this deck, so I'm amazed that we're not drawing into lands. Might just have to be the Dragonlord Dramoka here. We could go Dragon Speaker and the Thunderbreak, but we don't have enough red mana as it stands now. Yeah, so let's go for the Dragonlord Dramoka. Try and dissuade some swings in towards us. Now then, what can Kenrith do with all that mana? We see an Avenger of Zendikar, so yeah, pretty good going that the doubling season has gone down there. But I think Coat of Arms is going to be more of a threat than doubling season would have been, because it will be a bunch of plant tokens that come out here. It should be 5 plant tokens and 5 plant tokens, and they are all 4/5s thanks to the Coat of Arms. Then following that up with a second harvest, so the plant tokens getting even bigger. They make a couple more treasure tokens because they did have some of those left over. And the plants are now 9/10s, by the way. Spider player getting out an Aurum Reef the Vastwood. Then a Sky Snare Spider, Reach and Vigilance, that's a 6/6. And still continuing to hold back. The only decent attack they've got is against us, so I'm actually not too upset that they're not turning in sideways. Runic Armasaur from the Grumgully. Can't be countered, and could come in with haste or a plus counter. Deciding to have that enter with a couple of plus counters, one from the Commander and one from Rhythm of the Wild. It does draw them a card with Guardian Project, so the Smothering Tithe continuing to be, yeah, a bit of a pain over there. And playing and cracking and evolving wilds. Then a Sunder Shaman. Can't be blocked by more than one creature, deals damage to a player, destroy an artifact or enchantment that player controls, cantrips with the Guardian Project as ever. That comes in as a 10/10 without haste. Wouldn't be likely to get through the Avenger of Zendikar and all the plant tokens anyway. And yeah, as I expected, that is coming in towards us. They will not get a copy with the Quartzwood Crasher at least. Probably would have brought that in towards us, but maybe they're scared of us double blocking. We'll have to just take the hit for 10 there. We're being way too slow here, I think. Oh, I thought it was this creature. It's whenever one or more creatures you control with trample. Alright, so they do get another dinosaur beast token, and that is a 14/14 with trample. See if we get anything decent here. Oh, finally getting to another land. It only took 7 turns. So if we dump out the forest, we can play and equip the sword. Yeah, protection from green might actually be relevant this game. I mean, they're all going wide on us either way. Yeah, anything we do here is going to be a red rag to a bull, so might as well go for the sword. Try and give ourselves a little bit of a chance of staying in the game. We know our opponents can't do anything during our turn thanks to the Dragon Lord Dramoka, one of the better dragons that you can cast. Go for the sword onto the servant. Actually, what I should have done there... Yeah, I thought about that wrong. What I should have done is gone equip onto Dragon Lord Dramoka, swung in, hit, and then flicker the Dragon Lord Dramoka and get a land, and then I could still re-equip it. I'm just thinking of getting the land in and then re-equipping to Dragon Lord Dramoka during my opponent's turns, having that untapped, but yeah, anyway. Could have gained a bit more life there, but I actually don't think it'll be relevant thanks to the massive tokens that are in play. So we'll go straight down the middle. Might not be a good idea because that player does have black. They could blow up our creature, and this way we look like we're spreading damage around. So that lands. We will flicker the Dragon Lord Servant. We'll go for a mountain here because, again, we are heavy on red, and that way we can go Dragon Speaker Shaman into something else, most likely. Then we'll go for the sword onto the Dragon Lord Dramoka and await death. Yeah, I'm looking over at the deck list here. There's actually no board wipes, which is something the patrons forget to put in decks quite a lot. Yeah, you need board wipes in your deck. There's probably a dragon that can wipe the board. No, there actually isn't. There's I think it's a dragon from the original Innistrad block that deals damage and then deals that much damage to each of their creatures. There's Drakuseth and cards like that. Yeah, no board wipes whatsoever in this deck, unfortunately. So it's likely that Kenrith can go wide on us this turn. Maybe he won't calculate the fact that we've got lifelink on the dragon. Oh, a Splinter Twin. And the Avenger of Zendikar does not have Summoning Sickness, so they can go for the Splinter Twin. And the Avenger of Zendikar does not have Summoning Sickness, so they can go for the Splinter Twin straight away. Activating that will trigger the Runic Armasaur, which is draw a card for Grumgully. So the plants now jumping up to 16 17s. Some of them do have plus counters on them from a land that has come in. They now have all their colours fixed, which arguably they would have done with Smothering Tithe anyway. But they certainly do on their lands with the World Tree now, and they are only one land away from starting with the Field of the Dead. And there we go, Kraytooth Behemoth, so that is likely all of us going down. And yeah, the Kenrith player wins it, seemingly, as I thought he was going to. So the Spider player scoops it up straight away, clearly has nothing to do. The Grumgully is tapped out, as are we, so yeah, I'm thinking that's it. Let's just see how big these plant tokens get. They jump up to 22 23s, and all this stuff has trample, don't forget. So effectively only 2 plants need to hit us, and the rest can go in towards the Grumgully. Yeah, so unfortunately didn't see a board wipe from any players throughout all of that game. I think there were some questionable plays anyway. So yeah, not sure how big these things would have been with a coat of arms, but they would have been even bigger. Oh, they all get buffed up there thanks to the... thanks to the Wild Beastmaster. So that's a 22-22. The plants jump up to 44-45s. Again, would have been even bigger with the coat of arms. And the Grumgully player is blocking for some reason. So I will try another game. I don't fancy my odds too much without board wipes in the deck. The thing with dragons is that you're not going to get them out quickly enough to actually do anything during the... But yeah, I will try once more, and hopefully we'll do much better. Gonna try again with this deck. It is Ghired Dragon Tribal, up against Furya, Ruhan, and Chromat. We have, yeah, the mana situation's looking a lot better. We were, to be fair, unlucky with mana last game, but I don't think we were going to do particularly well in that match anyway. especially with no board wipes in the deck. Asked for power level 5 this time, in order to try and get a more balanced game. In my experience, Magic Online, and actually I've been playing paper gameplay on Spell Table, and even power levels get ignored a little bit on there as well, so hopefully that is not the case here. Let's get down a Temple Garden. We will shock that into play so that we can go for Exploration and drop another land. Is it Signet from the Jeskai player, followed by Golden Egg for Furrier. Okay, Utvara Hellkite, drawing into some expensive stuff here. Let's go Arcane Signet, and we can drop the Dragon Lord's Servant that we drew into last turn as well. So we can get down a 5 mana dragon as it stands now, or we can just drop the Endurance next turn. I don't know if there's any players here that particularly care about their graveyard. Maybe there's some reanimation stuff here. It might be Angel Tribal, perhaps. Anyway, we see a hideaway card in Spinerock Knoll from the Chromat player. Thought Vessel now, and that takes the Ruhan into Azorius Signet. I think that is... Oh, I thought it was a Wasteland. That is a Warped Landscape. Chromatic Star being played and cracked immediately by the Azorius, or the Orzhov player even. And that takes Furrier into a Rogue's Gloves. Land here would be nice for our commander. Instead it is Chromatic Lantern. We'll accelerate our mana here, as opposed to doing anything else. I don't think the Endurance particularly helps us. And then in an attempt to not make any enemies, we won't bother dealing 1 damage to someone. Don't think it's typical that 1 damage matters. Feyburrow Elder only taps for 1 mana, of a colour of a permanent you control. Potentially a 5/5 though. And Padim Console of Innovation, so artifacts have hexproof, and then Warped Landscape being cracked, so can go for a basic in tapped. Okay, the Orzhov player with 6 cards in hand, just passing through the turn. Dragon Speaker Shaman is pretty tempting, because that means that sets us up for a Tarka next turn. Ghired, however, yeah, we can start dealing some decent damage with the Ghired, so maybe we just hope for more mana next turn, and then we can go Dragon Speaker Shaman into something else maybe. I think this is the most mana efficient thing to do here, so yeah, we'll just leave it at that and pass. If we get into a land next turn, then we can go for the Atarka World Render, as long as the Dragon Lord's Servant stays in play. A Grow from the Ashes, that is kicked, so if it was kicked, search for 2 basics and put them onto the battlefield. So those come in untapped, and they do have a Fabled Passage as well, so still 3 mana available and 5 cards in hand. And that allows him a Wayward Swordtooth, which is another land to play for the turn, so down to 3 cards, and an unbasic island, or an untapped island, is now in play. Now Ruhan coming into play, it does have Summoning Sickness, so no haste there thankfully. And this time the Azorius player does get to do something. Furrier, Judge of Valor coming into play. So seeing almost all the commanders on the battlefield at this point. Okay, planes, so yeah, the Atarka doesn't have haste, and we don't have any other dragons. Yeah, I think it's just Atarka after attacks. The Wayward Swordtooth actually can't do anything here, can't attack or block, so maybe it's a 4/4 Rhino over here, and a Ghired over here. I think this is going to have unblockable next turn anyway. That's typically what happens with Ruhan, so I don't think it matters if we hold up a blocker for that. They'll likely make a land or another permanent next turn, and then this will be able to swing in though. So perhaps it's just turning in sideways towards Furrier and trying not to have the Wayward Swordtooth coming towards us. Probably will do anyway though, because the Atarka only has 4 toughness. So holding a Rhino back might be a good idea. Here we'll just go for the Ghired in towards the Furrier player. Okay, and then Jeskai wanting to do something about that here. Oh, I see. Going for double strike onto this, that won't do anything because we've got 5 toughness, so, well, could block our Rhino, but then the Rhino still trades the commander, so, yeah, bit of a waste of Boros Charm there, I think, unless I'm missing something. So we'll have the Rhino swing in at the Furrier as well. I'm happy to trade the Rhino token for their commander. I mean, they will gain a couple more life, but deciding not to block anyway, so yeah, not entirely sure what the Boros Charm was about there. And then we'll try and dissuade our opponents from coming in towards us with the Atarka. Yep, and that looks like a shame scoop to me. The Jeskai player just, well, decides to shame scoop, I think. That's a good one. Saw that in the last game, Dragon Lord Dramoka from the Chromat player. So won't be able to do anything during their turns now. We have successfully held off the Wayward Swordtooth as well. Didn't want to swing into our big creatures. The Furrier's going to have to do something good here because we're currently looking at swinging in towards Furrier again. They throw out a Starlit Sanctum. So maybe Cleric Tribal they're going for here. Okay, Doomblade onto our Ataka Worldrender. Yeah, really missing haste here at the moment. Not sure how much haste is in the deck. I'm looking over at the list now. I see a Rhythm of the Wild. No Fervor. There is no Lightning Greaves. No Swiftfoot Boots either. So maybe there's some dragons in here that give haste. Oh, there's Dragon Tempest, the enchantment. Yeah, so there's some means of haste. Anyway, Beacon Apparition. Exile a creature from a graveyard and get a spirit token. So there is the black-white spirit token. Rogue's Gloves going on to the spirit token. And then Furrier swinging in towards us. So we get into a forest. That means Utvara Hellkite this turn, I think. No other dragons available to us, unfortunately. 2, 4, 6 and 7. So yeah, we can do that. I think we're just turning in towards the black-white player here. I mean, we're making an enemy, and I think this player will allow us to duke it out. I imagine Chromat's looking in our direction as well, unfortunately, so it might turn into a 2-on-1. But we have to play the cards we have to our advantage. Could also be some kind of instant speed death touch onto the spirit or something. Lower power games might include effects such as that. So we'll go for another copy of a Rhino and continue to swing that in. So there is currently 4, 8, 12 and 14 damage at the black-white player. And they take that going down to 22. We'll go for the Hellkite here. Oh, Mythos of Snapdax. Each player chooses an artifact, a creature, an enchantment and a planeswalker and sacrifices the rest. If you pay Mardu, then this player can choose there. So that's exactly what they're doing. Giving us our Dragonlord Servant, Exploration, and the Arcane Signet. The Orzhov player keeps Rogue's Gloves and the Furrier. So we're a mana away from getting Ghired into play again, unfortunately, and we are shy of dragons. They kept their own Dragonlord Dramoka, of course, by the way. So now down to 0 cards in hand. That is a Primal Command, and trying to take us off our colours, okay. So that is non-creature permanent on top of the library, which fixes our draw for next turn. Fixes it from their perspective, that is. And search for a creature, reveal it, put it into your hand. Then turning towards us, as you would expect, that is 5 lifelink. Rogue's Gloves goes onto the Furrier here, and no prizes for guessing. Alright, surprisingly going in at the dragon player. The other dragon player, the Chromat, so that will trigger the Rogue's Gloves, and they will draw a card. They then go for Foreboding Fruit, and they're going to cast another spell here, which will trigger the Furrier. That is a Dusk Legion Zealot, so they are going to have to discard a card at the end of this turn. So at the end of that turn, we see a Scoured Barrens, a basic Swamp, and a Wall of Omens hit the bin. And we know what we're drawing into, thanks to our friend Chromat over there. So we can't go for our commander, we might as well... Do we want to hold up the Endurance? I mean, again, I think we might as well, so we'll shock down the Temple. And we'll go for the Dragon Speaker. Might as well swing in here because I'm not going to be worried about blocking the 1-1 with our 2-2. So we'll swing in towards the Chromat. If we manage to hit our opponent 2, 3, 4 times over the course of the game, this might make a difference. I mean, you never know, 1 damage could make all the difference. So now we see Chromat coming into play for the first time. And the 5-7 continuing to swing in towards us. So I think the tide has turned now. I think it's probably Furrier and myself that should be swinging in towards Chromat. Alright, or maybe not. The Furrier swings in towards us. Although this thing can give itself flying, yeah. Forgot about that. So, yeah, the Furrier correctly swinging in towards us. And Rogue's Gloves will draw them a card. A Siphon Mind, so each other player discards a card. We might as well go for Endurance now then. And if they've got any kind of graveyard shenanigans, then they will lose out on it here because we'll shuffle their graveyard around. It is 1 less card draw for them as well there, so going up to 9 cards in hand. A Gissa, Blade of Gold Knight with that horrendous art, and then going for Crib Swap onto the Chromat as well, so leaving them with a Changeling, and their commander goes down as well. And following it up with a Sol Ring, so 7 cards in hand, a bunch of mana. And yeah, I'm still worried about the Chromat, but it's probably the Furrier that we should be looking at. That is Explosive Veggies, so yeah, probably Ghired next turn. I mean, the Dragon player's continuing to swing in towards us. Maybe if we don't swing in at Chromat like I want to here, that will dissuade the Dromoka from swinging in towards us. If they swing in at us again and we can next turn, I will start hitting them. I'll have to, because Chromat will have forced my hand there, but yeah, I'll try and throw out some kind of olive branch here, and instead we will go for Explosive Vegetation. Chromat being cast again by the 5-colour player, and once again the Dromoka continuing to swing in at us, so they're obviously very worried about what we're doing. If we're able to swing in towards them, then I'm just going to start doing that. Looks like Furrier has something at the end of Chromat's turn, just sacrificing a food token there, so gaining some life. Oh good, and my favourite card, a Stacks Piece in God Pharaoh's statue. So spells your opponent's cast cost 2 more to cast. Does that keep us off Ghired? Yeah, I think we're 1 mana shy of Ghired now. And yeah, these two continuing to gang up on us. Yeah, that has reach. Our opponent clearly hasn't seen that, so we'll block there. I mean, the Chromat, again, is held up for the flying over here, so Furrier, without realising that has reach, forced to swing over to us. Playing a Commander Sphere, which is the second card that they've cast this game, or this turn. So, drawing a card with Furrier. And they threw into the bin an Executioner's Capsule and an Order of Midnight. Down to 5 cards in hand, and they go for Weathered Wayfarer. We all lose 1 life to the God Pharaoh. Okay, and get into a land, so I think we'll have to shock that down so that we can go for the Ghired here. And then there's nothing we can do as it stands here. We don't really have any decent attacks. Yeah, not all that bothered about swinging in over here. We could try and have them get rid of the Weathered Wayfarer by double blocking the Dragon Speaker, but yeah, there's not really much point in any attacks there. Path to Exile goes on to the Dragonlord Dromoka from Furrier before their turn starts. Couldn't do it during the upkeep to give them a tapped land, because Dragonlord Dromoka would keep them off that during their turn. Satalpa, Primal Dawn. What we're seeing here, that is an Erratic Portal. Return it to its owner's hand. Yeah, that's because they want to get more card draw with the Furrier. We cannot pay for that. So they swing in at us again for 2 points of damage, drawing into the 5th card in their hand. And there we see the next piece of single white mana as removal, and that is Swords to Plowshares going on to the Zatalpa, a really, really good one to get rid of. So they jump up to 55 life, but well worth it to get rid of Zatalpa. That was a Necropolis Fiend. So Delve, exiling a bunch of stuff from the bin, and that is a 4/5 flyer. X mana, tap, exile X cards from your graveyard to give a creature -X/-X. And then we all lose a life to the God Pharaoh's statue again. A Dragon Tempest, I mean, we can just get both of these down here, but yeah, we're not really doing much of anything here. Don't think Ghired really lends itself to Dragon Tribal. You really want to be getting into token shenanigans and populate and doubling your tokens and all that kind of stuff. So I don't think there's any decent attacks that we can make here, thanks to the demon. Once and future, return a card from your graveyard to your hand, and a card from graveyard on top of library. If 3 green mana was spent to cast, instead return them to your hand. So I don't think they've paid the adamant cost there. Anyway, targeting Gazella to go on top, and Mythos of Snapdax. Game's going to last a bit longer, seemingly. So that means Sword of the Animist comes into play instead. They can't equip it, unfortunately. I mean, we could have gone for the Endurance there and shuffled their graveyard, but I mean, I suppose our only out here is to have the game go on longer. Weathered Wayfarer being activated there, so they will get to search for a land, and they search for Orzhov Basilica. Furrier going straight through to combat here, so might have forgotten about the Endurance. The Chromat actually can't give Chromat flying here, so yeah, going in towards the Chromat player in order to draw a card with the Rogue's Gloves. The Rogue's Gloves has been very good in this 5-power game. Now, a Cauldron Familiar. We have seen a little bit of food shenanigans from our opponents, so I wonder if there's the Cauldron Familiar combo with the with the artifact that I can't remember the name of. I think it was running rampant in Standard for a while. Now the Witch's Oven, there we are. So Witch's Oven and the Cauldron's Familiar in play here. Furrier, Judge of Valor will trigger. 1 card in hand and 2 in the bin. The 2 cards are a Swamp and the Thraben Inspector. So we can go for Endurance onto the Witch's Oven and Cauldron Familiar thing, because this will hit the bin, of course. So God Pharaoh's Statue will trigger and ping us down to 8. We're just going to have to hold up the Endurance because we're probably only drawing a land anyway. No, a Sunscorched Region, alright. That means we can't hold up the Endurance, but this is life gain, so actually how much does that cost? So it still costs us less, that is 4 mana. So we can still hold up the Endurance actually. So 4/3 Dragon coming into play. I mean, they can always kill off the Sunscorched Regent with this thing. Probably be a good idea, to be honest, because they don't want us staying in the game any longer than we're able to. All this stuff's going down to the Mardu board wipe anyway. X damage, we'll just deal it to the player with the most life. And then Dragon Tempest will have our creature gain haste as well, not that there's anywhere we can attack. So straight away, the Orzhov player goes Murder onto the Chromat. We will have a plus counter and gain a life. Probably should have swung in towards the 5-colour player there, but just in case they don't go for the Mardu board wipe, I'll just hold that thing back. Kind of forces the hand of the demon player. Also encourages them over there with their commander. Yep, so going for the Mythos of Snapdax, we go up to 10 life at least. Weathered Wayfarer will search for a land. No Cabal Coffers or Urborg or anything in here, which is a nice change of pace. A Desert of the True instead. And they can cycle that if they want to, that might be what they're doing here. No, going for Starlit Sanctum. Target player loses life equal to the sacrificed creature's power. Not sure what they sacrificed there. Oh, they got rid of their own Furrier, so 47 the 5-colour player is now at. And then Erratic Portal pointed at their own demon, and they can still sacrifice with the Witch's Oven. So do we particularly care about keeping the Endurance in play? I don't think it's really going to make a blind bit of difference. Might as well try and end this game as quickly as possible, even if it's not us that's going to win it. We'll go for the Endurance and shuffle the Cauldron's Familiar away. And this is before they get the food token with the Witch's Oven on the stack, so they can't get the Cauldron's Familiar into play again. Not that it would matter if they do, thanks to the Mythos of Snapdax. Furrier now discarding that Desert that they went for, and sacrificing the Commander Sphere as well, so bumping themselves up to 7 cards. This is a pretty cool Furrier deck that this player has made. Hopefully we'll be seeing the back of the God Pharaoh's statue. I don't see why they'd leave that in play. Yeah, leaving our opponent with a food token. The Dusk Legion Zealot leaving us with Exploration. Yeah, exactly the same targets as last time. Arcane Signet, Exploration, and the Dragon Lord's Servant. Our commander will certainly go back into the command zone. Then Sword of the Animist gets equipped onto the Changeling. And when that turns in sideways, they get a Rampant Growth. Goes in towards the 1/1 as you would expect. Probably best leaving the Dusk Legion Zealot in play just in case it needs to block something bigger at some point, but deciding to block with it now. Furrier has come back into play here, and then it was Golden Egg. I thought he'd cast that this game, and they must have got it back into hand somehow. Throwing away Basic Plains as well as a Leonin Arbiter. And they do have 8 cards in hand now, so we'll have to get rid of another one. And that card is a Desert of the Glorified. Okay, Eladamri's Call. We've got 3, 6, 7 mana available to us. Could go for Goldspan Dragon. Terror of the Peaks is pretty good as well. Then we can get down our commander next turn. There's Hellkite Tyrant. Doesn't really do much of anything. Lathlis. If we had more dragons in hand, then I'd absolutely go for that, but we don't seem to be drawing into them, unfortunately. Yeah, I think going for Terror of the Peaks is pretty good here. So we'll drop Eladamri's Call. Yeah, Emil would be good if we had other creatures in play, but obviously we don't. Yeah, we'll just go for Terror of the Peaks here. And then when we get down our commander next turn, we can start dealing plenty of damage. I imagine our opponent can afford the Chroma here now that the stacks piece has gone down. No, instead going for the Gisela, Blade of Gold Knight, which we did see previously. Then 0 cards in hand, that is Warden of the First Tree, and it will cost Orzhov mana to level that thing up. The 2/2 swings in towards us. So that will deal 4 damage, thanks to Gisela. 4 damage could actually be relevant, so I think I'm going to have to block here. And levelling up Warden of the first tree, which they can do at instant speed, so that becomes a 3-3. It will then turn into a 3-3 with Trample and Lifelink, and then get 5+ counters on it after that. Final payment going on to the Gisela, that is really good. Yeah, I don't know if they sacrificed a creature there. I think they just took the life. They are down to 28. That's just straight up destroy a creature. They got another card with the Furrier. So Orzhov Signet and Orzhov Locket going into the bin. And that makes our Terror of the Peaks a lot better. So we should be able to get rid of the 2 creatures here for the 5-colour player. Argument to be made for us getting rid of the Furrier. But I don't think Furrier is going to be swinging in at us with an untapped Terror of the Peaks. There is a duplicate, so that probably deals with Terror of the Peaks then. Oh no, it does go after the Warden of the first tree. So the Furrier player wanting to team up with us seemingly. The 3 damage goes in towards the 5-colour player. Maybe if I swing in Terror of the Peaks towards the 5-colour player, then they'll try and leave us alone. And now a recover, return a creature card from graveyard's hand and draw. They are aiming that at the Leonin Arbiter, so some more tax pieces coming into play here. First going for Arcane Signet, still 7 cards in hand. And a Tithe Drinker, so not going for the cat just yet. Yeah, so maybe teaming up with the 5-colour player is a better idea then. I mean, I have no doubt that we're not winning this one, but I mean, we can try and give ourselves every chance, I suppose. Ghired costs 9 mana, which makes us tap out. The Sylvia would be nice to give the Terror of the Peaks double strike, but we get to spread more damage around this way. So let's tap out into Ghired Conclave Exile. Terror of the Peaks will deal 2 damage to something. I think it's equal to the power of the creature. Yes, it is. So 2 damage goes on the Tithe Drinker, because that is lifelink, and Extort is pretty scary for us. And then Ghired brings a 4-4 into play, so that can get rid of the Furrier. I mean, they can afford Furrier, but it will take up a massive chunk of mana for them. So that pretty much dictates their next turn, I think. And then hopefully they don't get haste on us with Swiftfoot Boots or something. We will swing in the Terror of the Peaks at the Orzhov player in an attempt to gain some kind of loyalty from the 5-colour player. Yeah, I did appreciate the duplicate not going on Terror of the Peaks, but it's pretty much our only out at this point. So we can't really afford any loyalty, unfortunately. Spinerock Null was activated there. An opponent wasn't dealt 7 or more damage there, so yeah, that didn't actually do anything. The Terror of the Peaks hopefully will next turn if we get the Sylvia Bright Spear into play, because it will give our dragons double strike. And the Shapeshifter, a 2-2 with the Sword of the Animist, swings in towards the 1-1 duplicate. So hopefully there's no kind of reanimator in here, because they could probably reanimate the duplicate. There was a reason I didn't target that thing. Anyway, they do block with that. And then a Nezahal. And that's hell of a top deck, Nezahal Primal Tide. So they're going to get some more card draw there, potentially. I think it's actually pretty likely, judging by what this Furrier deck is made of so far. Going straight through to attacks with a 1-1 Flying Spirit in play. That goes in towards us, knocking us down to 9. And then a False Prophet. When it dies, exile all creatures. Yeah, gonna have to be careful against that one. Right, there's a forest for us. Yeah, we can't really turn in sideways with Ghired now. We can get 2 damage off. So if we get down the Sylvia Bright Spear, probably blowing up this thing so it can't block next turn is a good idea. So let's go Sylvia Bright Spear. Sticking around in this game much longer than we should have done, I imagine. So Sylvia Bright Spear coming into play, 2 damage onto the Spirit. Could be dealing it directly to players, of course, but not sure if we've got Korvath in here, actually. Well, we can search our library for it, I suppose. No, I didn't think we did. Would have planned out the turn a little bit different if I'd thought that we had Korvath, because we could have maybe ganged up on Nezahal there. Can't remember how much power Korvath has for the Terror of the Peaks. Okay, I didn't realise it was a cleric, so they can sacrifice with the Starlit Sanctum anyway. So, target player loses life equal to its power, so that's 2 to us. And that is exile all creatures. So we'll put Ghired back in the command zone, drop a land and pass. Barlaged Recovery, which the graveyard won't stay open. They got something out of their graveyard there. Yeah, it must have been the Gisela. So getting that back out of the graveyard with the Barlaged Recovery and recasting it. Really good top decks from our opponent. Then equipping the Sword of the Animist onto there as well. So as it stands now, this will be dealing 12 damage in the air. I dare say a Furrier will be in play over here though, so Gisela may well turn sideways and get rid of us next turn. Yeah, the Furrier coming into play here. They play one more spell and we'll get some more card advantage. And there is the Necropolis Fiend as well. So exiling some more stuff from the bin. And they have ditched a Dark Ritual and a Serra Ascendant. Not likely maybe that they're gonna get up to the 30 life. Now let's see if we draw into another land here. Well, gamble's pretty useless. With only one card in hand, we'll just discard whatever it is that we gamble for. The Gisela not finishing us off because we are not seeming like much of a threat here. They've got 2 flyers to block with. They're going to take half damage on the swing back, but deciding to take the full 13 there. And now the Spine-Rot Null is going to actually do something. An Angel of Ruins, one of the few cards from the Commander set that actually released on Magic Online. So exile up to 2 artifacts and or enchantments, getting rid of the, what is it called, the Golden Egg and the Arcane Signet. Not really too consequential, I wouldn't have thought, but it does get another flyer into play. And there's Chromat yet again. So doing a lot in one turn there. The Sword of the Animist doing a hell of a lot of work here. It's paying for half of the command attacks every turn. Paying for full command attacks once every 2 turns. Does assume that they've got lots of basics in the deck though, which you would assume they do if they've got Sword of the Animist there. Still 7 cards in Furrier's hand though. A Soul Warden might keep them in the game. Second spell is a Legion's Landing, which will trigger the Soul Warden. They ditch, cannot keep the graveyard open. Why is it designed like that? How does someone sit in the offices at Magic Online and think, yeah, that's okay, they don't need to see the graveyard? Wall of Omens. We have already seen in the bin, we've shuffled their graveyard a couple of times, I think, so that's probably what they're drawing into again after shuffles and stuff. 2 damage from Furrier, trying to slowly finish us off. Not swinging in with their demon, curiously, but that's probably because of the big flyers that are going to be crashing in towards them. Surprised they're swinging in with Furrier at all, to be honest. So we go down to 3. Could have got rid of us thanks to the double damage, if they turn their 4-5 in at us as well. Just deciding with 6 cards in hand to leave it there. Not even sure what we can gamble for, to be honest. Shall we just do it for the fun of it? Got a 50-50 shot here. Would be good to be able to go for some kind of board wipe, but don't think we've got one available to us. Why don't we just go Dragonlord Dramoka for the lifelink? Alright, we get to keep it as well, that's excellent. Yeah, the Chandra's Ignition would be a really good board wipe in this, especially when you've got lifelinkers in the deck, because I think the Chandra's Ignition allows you to have the creature itself deal damage to all the stuff. The Soul Warden gaining them some life there. We're dragging the game out on this side for as long as we can for ourselves. But if Gisela and company decide to turn in sideways towards us, there's next to nothing that we're going to do. They've still got 21 cards in the graveyard, so yeah, this can still do some work for them. Giving Chromat flying until the end of the turn for Is It. And now it looks as though the demon isn't going to allow anything to swing in towards him. That is a Dizzying Swoop. Tap 2 creatures. And that will be a 2-3 flyer if they want to get that into play next turn. Yeah, including the adventure cards is a good idea because you can go for both sides of the adventure. Anyway, the 5-7 still swinging in over there. The Chromat is as well. So this is 20 damage in total. They're kind of forcing them to go for the Necropolis Fiend here. Might still be worth taking out the Gisela above the other 2 creatures. Okay, blocking the Angel. The Angel doesn't have trample, so activating Chroma won't do anything in particular there. Although I suppose they could force this to go away. At the moment they're putting their mana into plussing on Chromat, so now the demon is being activated, first chance it gets. Chromat not being manipulated by our Dragonlord Dramoka being tapped down there. So putting the Orzhov player in a tricky spot here. And they do tap down, exile a bunch of stuff and pointing it at the Chromat. Okay, going for the regenerate. That won't work because it's minus. Yeah, this is -X, -X. Yeah, I don't think regenerate's going to do what you want it to. Now, Touch of Moonglove. Target creature you control gets +1 in Death Touch until the end of the turn. Whenever a creature dealt damage by that creature dies this turn, its controller gains 2 life. So they're going to trade creatures here. Still leaving the Gisela in play. Yeah, so targeting the Chromat paid off for them there. That is Furrier coming in towards us again, so that is us finally down. So there we are, down we go. And we'll see what ends up happening this game. The Furrier player has been fighting tooth and nail to stay in this one. There is an Angel of Deliverance. That one is, when it deals damage, if 4 or more card types are in your graveyard, exile a creature an opponent controls. Then they go for the Doomblade onto Gisela, plenty of removal in this Orzhov list as you would expect. And then a Malakir Rebirth going onto the Gisela, keeping that in play. Furrier will continue to get some card advantage here, throwing a couple of lands in the bin. And the Gisela comes back into play. Luckily for our opponent, there is an Angel to throw in the way of that. Noteworthy that this thing is damage as opposed to combat damage, so yeah, if you've got some kind of means of tapping it and dealing damage, or, I mean, I brought up Chandra's Ignition before, things like that, it can exile creatures. Doesn't have to be combat damage with that thing. Sword of the Animist back onto the Gisela. So as it stands now, that is a 6/6 again. It will deal 12 to the Orzhov player. This will only deal 3 if they decide to block with that. They get a Sword of the Animist trigger. And there is a Village Rites that sacrificed a token, I think, so drawing a couple more cards. And then going for another spell on this turn, seemingly. Yep, that is a Karam. Next one, damage that will be dealt to a creature this turn is dealt to another instead, and draw a card, so they'll get more card advantage from Furrier. And that is targeting the Angel of Deliverance, throwing away a Plains and a Disenchant. The game continues, an Ondu Inversion, which blows up all of the non-land permanents, so it's still the Furrier players to win, although this player is still at 40 life, only 1 card in hand though, but Furrier constantly at 7 cards in hand. Only 33 left in the deck though, compared to 65 over here. So Furrier coming back into play, and casting a Felwar Stone, so we'll go back up to 7, playing a Mind Stone as well. Go for the Throat, and Kami of Ancient Lore are in the bin from the Furrier. And now a Wargate. Search for a permanent with mana value X or less and put it onto the battlefield. That is mana value X, and that's one way to refill your hand. A Villis, Broker of Blood, and giving a creature -1/-1. They do have, yeah, they've got 3 more swamps after this, so can get rid of the Furrier. Drawing cards all the while as well. So down goes the Furrier. Furrier back into play for the umpteenth time. And playing another spell, that is Consume. Target player sacrifices a creature with the greatest power. You gain life equal to its power, so real good back and forth here. They're going to gain 8 life. I mean, the hand has been refilled up here already, so might as well activate Villis a couple of times here. Draw some more cards, but deciding against that. And in the bin this time is a Swamp and a Sanitarium Skeleton, which can come out of the bin, of course. Alchemist's Refuge coming into play here, so that will give flash to, any number of spells this turn. First spell is Cast from Exile, that is Ardenvale Tactician, followed by the Leonin Arbiter, which means even more card advantage. There is a Condemn, having to be really fast with the graveyard. Foreboding Fruit was obviously shuffled before and then drawn into again, but is now in the bin. Furrier swings in, which could potentially be risky because he does have flash, don't forget. Currently on 6 commander to the Furrier, but taking a further 2 damage, so going up to 8 commander. Okay, going for something else entirely and ignoring the Alchemist's Refuge so far. That is a turnabout, so tapping a bunch of mana and then untapping their lands most likely. Yeah, that's exactly what he's doing. Then going for Naya Charm. Return a card from graveyard to its owner's hand. Yeah, I always forget about Naya Charm, but that is an instant speed Eternal Witness effectively. So tapping it all down again, they got the turnabout back with Naya's Charm. So going for it again. Might have some kind of instant speed X spell or something like that. And tapping out again, I mean, I don't know how much mana he had there, but I think it was around the 30 something mark. Ah, there we go. An explosion, so X damage to any target and draw X cards. So that is 39 damage straight to the Orzhov player's face. And that lands excellent, so the 5-colour player managing to last long enough to get rid of Furya there. No Teferi's Protection or anything, you probably wouldn't expect that in a 5-power game. And, okay, alright, gave the Orzhov player the card draw, of course. So these are the cards that each player had in hand, but yeah, that was a real slugfest, wasn't it? We stayed in that one much longer than we probably should have done. Hopefully you all enjoyed this one. Big thank you to Carl Gowan for his Mythic Patreon tier. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.